Hello, hello.
Sean, how you doing, pal?
Oh, my goodness. As I live and breathe. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
It's my old friend, Sean Astin. How you doing? I see you're doing well, pal.
You sounded like Joey. How you doing?
I'm here.
Yeah, things are going well. It's funny. I've been doing publicity for a few different things, and all of a sudden, it makes it seem like you're the busiest person in the world. Never mind that, some of the stuff you did like a year and a half ago and a year ago, and it all seems to be bunching up and coming out at the same time.
Well, what I was going to tell you, here's why I think you're busy, is Vox Populi, and I really want to talk about that because this kind of happened right after you did the show, and
yeah.
I'm like, this he comes on the show, okay, and this is when Sean just got on Twitter. So Sean's big thing was, okay, I need to build a Twitter following. He did that. I mean, when this guy sets his mind to something, this is what I've seen with the marathons that he runs, then with Twitter, and now with Vox Populi. When Sean says, I'm going to get something done and do it, he does it, and he builds an audience for it. And I want to talk about Vox Populi because you just started your second season, and then you have your first official show tomorrow, right, for the second season?
May 1st.
Oh, it's May 1st.
May 1st.
Okay.
We did a big announcement.
Yesterday.
When I say big, I just mean it felt important to me. But it was at the Federal Building in Los Angeles on Tax Day. I decided that would be a nice symbolic place and day to announce that all the Kickstarter backers, who had supported the show, could now, lock in a date for their for the first episode of the second season.
Why was it important for you to do a Kickstarter campaign? I want you to explain to everybody the legacy that has started of Vox Populi, the story that has started around, because I think how you started the show is fascinating, which you can talk about the Lovitz Comedy Club and how it grew from there, and then talk about the Kickstarter campaign, because I find this fascinating.
All right, so first of all, I've always wanted to do a political show, always, and whenever I had movies that were moderately successful, and I'd be in new conversations with agents or managers and things, I'd always say, well, what about a political talk show? And it was like I took a big dump right in the middle of the room. People just could not get behind the idea of talk. They're like, why would you want to alienate at least half of the people, and then maybe a half of the people that are still left with you because they agree with you because you didn't do it right? So that we sort of let it go for a long time. The Twitter thing, for me, when I was sitting in my bed and watched the Tahrir Square Arab Spring, when they overthrew in Egypt, they overthrew Hosni Mubarak.
Yeah.
He'd been a dictator for like 35 years there. A dictator with a good relationship with the United States, never mind. But anyhow, I just thought, wow, what is going on with Twitter? I need to figure this thing out. If I ever want to have my own revolution, I'm going to need a Twitter handle. So I first did a little thing where I helped Edward James Olmos and Robert Kennedy Jr. out with their Waterkeeper Alliance goal to boost up their Twitter following. And, I tweeted every 2 seconds for 3 days until everybody said if I didn't stop, they would hurt me. And then I kind of the Run Third, I call it a movement. I have a way of characterizing myself and things I'm doing as much more important than other people might think they are, but I don't care what you think. They're important to me. So Run Third was this beautiful thing where I run first for myself, I run second for my wife and family, and I run third for you. And it was an inspirational campaign, Twitter following campaign. So if you wanted to dedicate, something to a loved one, you'd say, run third. I just got one just now. I just looked at one that said run third for my sister who passed away today. She lost her fight with cancer. That was right before you called me on the show. So basically, and then if I wear hashtag RUN3RD, I'm symbolically running on behalf of all those people. And it was amazing. It was a huge thing. You were part of it over there at the John Lovitz comedy club at the Universal City Walk, and I went up there to be on your show and to promote the Run Third thing for no other reason than when I put out my mission statement. I kind of wrote a little mission statement of who I was and why I was doing that and why running was important to me. A whole lot of energy came back at me. The people of the LA Marathon wanted to do a profile piece with me. KTLA came and did a thing. This was not me like reaching out to them. This was them seeing what I was doing and thinking it was cool. And then it became a thing. They put me on the cover of Runner's World, and I'm like Forrest Gump. I'm running and running. I'm not sure I was saying that. But when I walked into that comedy club and I saw what had been set up with you guys and Frank at the Toad Hop Network, it was very instantly clear to me that this was something that I could do. I could tell that he was trying to, he had lots of shows and probably could use a lot more. And so, while I was in the green room getting ready to do your show, I was trying to make a deal for on the spot for my political show, and I ended up going and seeing Frank, the owner of the station, at his place, and we shook hands, and basically I got to have a show, and it was the guys who probably worked on your show doing the graphics and stuff who did it, and I did 36 episodes there, the first probably 20 or so out of the Toad Hop Theater at Universal City Walk, and then they had their split, the Lovitz folks and the Toad Hop folks.
Yeah.
So I went over with the Toad Hop folks, where my arrangement was with them. I had never even met any of the other people, and they set up shop at Hollywood in La Brea, and so I did probably another 15 or 16 there, and I was doing all of it. I mean, aside from Johnny Ice, who was our board operator, amazing, love Johnny, it was basically for me to track down the guests and pick the episodes or the topics and do the research and deal with all the little things that go into it. I was doing it all, and I just got burned out, and so I stopped. I went on a hiatus because I didn't want to admit that it was over, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to do a Kickstarter. And the day the government shut down, I don't remember the date offhand, but the day the government shut down last year, I think it was probably in August or September, I was watching it on the news, and I just popped open my computer and just started going into the Kickstarter thing. I used the video that had been created the first day of the show, of the original show, put that right in a little queue there. And then I didn't launch it right away, but within a couple of weeks I got up the stones to do it, and I pushed send, and then as soon as you push send, then this is where I think what you said is true a little bit about my perseverance, because I did not want to be a guy who asked for $30,000 and then failed.
Right.
So I was just a maniac, emailing everyone I knew, calling it wasn't even about the money at a certain point. It was about proving the idea of the concept.
It was kind of about
winning.
winning.
It took off.
I mean, it's a competitive side of you. I mean, I'm the same way. I get it.
So, but then it took off, and we had a bunch of volunteers come in, and we started what we call Team Vox, because the show is Vox Populi, Voice of the People. Actually, it's become Vox Populi Radio, but it started as Vox Populi, Voice of the Occasionally Interested People. It was kind of a little tongue-in-cheek play on the fact that nobody wants to talk about politics, except for the 9 wingnuts who we see the same people on the same news shows every 10 minutes.
Right.
But, normal people are really, mostly, I've found, reticent to talk about politics, because the second they open their mouth, no matter what they say, somebody is going to attack them for something. And so I want to do a show where people can be invited into a safe place and we can talk about things and not know anything. I'm not an expert. That's my little get out of jail free card right there. It's like I don't.
But that's kind of the intrigue for you doing a show. I think that's kind of why you're going to have a lot of listeners. You do have a lot of listeners, and people listening to you is because to them it's like the normal guy talking about politics. It's like when Mikey and Steve or Chucky and I talk about politics. We're not politicians. It's just the way we're seeing how things are going on. No really affiliation. If it's something we care about and we do the research on, we're going to give you our version of what we think. And I find that to be the interesting thing about your show is you're not really affiliated with any. You're not MSNBC, which is liberal. You're not Fox News, which is Republican. You're Sean Astin.
Well, I'm a Democrat.
Yeah.
But more important than being a Democrat in the context of the show is I want to be someone who's genuinely interested. So I don't care who I talk to. The difference is I really don't impugn the motives. I don't attack somebody for, I don't assume that their position is based in some meanness or something bad or wrong or hateful. I take as a, until you show me otherwise, I trust that you're a good-hearted, smart person who's come to your opinion the way you've come to it, and I want to understand it because I'll understand my own argument a little better. I'll see where the weakness is in your argument. I'll also see where the weaknesses are in my argument. And maybe, in that process, we're able to somehow, bend the arc of progress in the right direction. My show's not about changing people's opinion. It's about expressing your own opinion and feeling good about it. I mean,
Right.
we could talk about anything you want to talk about, and you would find, whether you and I are totally opposite or not, you would get the same level of curiosity and respect for your opinion. And that's the key. It's the key to listening. It's the key to conflict resolution. You got to really be willing to listen.
Has there ever been a time where Republicans have come on your show and gotten you to change your mind a little bit on your opinions?
Well, a lot of my Democrat friends are sure I'm a Republican.
Yeah, right.
Because, and my wife always says that I'm a front runner because I'm a Lakers fan, and back in the heyday of Michael Jordan, when we were doing Rudy, we got to hang out with Jordan and the Bulls and all them, and during, I mean, right at the apex of that whole movement, that whole Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, that was like
tidal wave.
That was like 92, 93. Yeah, that's huge.
That was huge.
Yeah, and we didn't. It's exactly right. And so my wife's like, "You're such a front runner. You love the Lakers today, but then tomorrow when we go to be with the Bulls, you're gonna love the Bulls." She's like, and she's a big fan of the Cubs. She's a huge fan. I think if the Cubs ever win, my wife is gonna.
They're the front. They're the front runnerest team ever. The Cubs. They're always winning.
Well, that's it. They're the front runner team if what you're trying to prove is that you're loyal.
Yeah, right.
It's like,
right.
I think if they ever win, she's going to be disappointed because you can't prove how loyal she is anymore.
Well, let me ask you, so VoxPopuliradio.com is where you can go listen to Sean's show. May 1st is the first show back. I want to bring up, of course, the Boys of Abu Ghraib, and I want to bring up, I would be the worst interviewer ever if I did not ask about Goonies 2, which I'm sure you've been bombarded about. But
that's why I actually called in tonight.
Is that why Goonies 2?
Yeah, I have news to make.
Oh, okay, I'm always about.
Kidding,
I'm always
kidding.
about news.
Sorry.
What are you doing to me?
What a tease,
man. Yeah, that's a tease. So Goonies 2. First of all, is it real?
According to Steven Spielberg and Richard Donner, who are the two people that make it real, the answer is yes.
I guess I trust them.
But
you guess?
Well, they've been wanting to do it for a long time. They've developed lots of screenplays. I don't know if lots is the right number or right amount, but they've developed screenplays, and I guess they've just never had it to where they want to. They're ready to pull the trigger to go. But at some point, it has to happen. I've always maintained that it is a 100% certainty that the sequel will get made. Maybe not in my lifetime or yours, but it will get done. And then all you have to do is look at the merchandising they sell and look at how many times it's screened outdoors all around the country all summer long. It's people want it. So when people want something that bad, if you're a studio and you don't give it to them, I don't know.
Are you shocked they haven't done a remake instead of a sequel, Sean? Because you just said if
Yes.
not in your lifetime or not my
think,
lifetime.
They made. Here's what I'm shocked about. I'm shocked that they haven't done an animated series.
Yeah,
I thought this was tailor-made for an animated series because if they did it and it didn't capture the magic, there's no harm, no foul. It's an animated show and it'll go away. And if it's good, then it's an annuity that can just keep going. Dick always talked about doing a musical, which would be hilarious. No, I have absolute faith. And by the way, I don't know if I'll be in it. I don't know if the other actors, who were in the original Goonies will be in it. But I have every feeling that it will get made as a sequel. Maybe it'll get redone at some point. It would seem a little. It wouldn't make sense to me. The logic of that wouldn't make sense. I'm not sure who would want that.
Do you not get any inside info on this process though? If there's going to be a Goonies 2 or not? I mean, not really. That obviously you're an actor. You're not writing the movie or producing.
Unless you call my buddy Corey Feldman inside info.
Yeah,
because Corey.
I saw
Corey knows stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of what's crazy for me is how does Corey have all this? I mean, I saw Corey on TMZ talking about Goonies 2, and he says, I may not do it, and blah, blah, blah. And, I mean, I know how Corey is. He's great on Howard Stern, and he's always just kind of doing his thing. But I find it hard to believe Corey Feldman's on the inside track and not Sean Astin.
Yeah.
You're wrong.
Wow.
You're just wrong.
Am I wrong? Corey's on the inside track.
Because Corey calls Dick all the time, and he goes to visit him, and I'm not sure if he sees Steven as much anymore. But Corey has. Don't count that brother out. He knows what he's doing. He's a pretty shrewd guy, and when here's the thing: if one of them, Steven or Dick, says to Corey that they're thinking about doing it, Corey is really he takes them at face value. He believes them, and he's ready to go out and say, "Hey, this is really happening."
Yeah.
So if it then doesn't happen, I think it's not a reflection of Corey, other than maybe he didn't play it as close to the vest as he could have. But why should he?
No, I don't
if
think.
Dick looks him in the eye and says we're doing it, and the guy goes out and says we're doing it, then we're doing it.
And listen,
until time goes by.
I don't doubt Corey, but it's exactly what you said. In my wording, it's Corey is a master promoter. He's kind of like a Vince McMahon, where he goes out there and he'll promote it, but he'll there's a lot of hyperbole sometimes when Corey promotes, is all I'm saying. So you never know.
All of us are like that.
Yeah,
all of us are like that, and when we lose credibility, it's But my friend used to say to me that reputations are hard to earn and easy to lose. So I find that Corey, when he's got his music, when he's got his book that he's putting out there, when he's got other things and he's out there promoting, I find him terribly credible. When he's out there talking about friends of his who are famous and have issues, I find him very authentic and believable. When it comes to some of the other stuff, I don't know. He's like my brother. We're friends. I just take it all. I take it all where it. But Corey does not apologize for who he is.
No,
if
sure.
Corey wants to dance, and he wants to dance in a certain way, he dances. And I think there's something so beautiful about that. And it's easy for us to chop down, but I think he's my buddy.
And I am not chopping down Corey Feldman. I love Corey Feldman. I grew up on Corey Feldman.
It's an outrage.
But
and
by the way, I do want to say also, if for our listeners, even though Sean's the one calling in, Corey Feldman's book is outstanding. And if you want a really good piece of like Hollywood biography to read, it's Corey Feldman's book. I'm telling you. Sean will tell you.
Yeah, I've talked to in the parent circuit, when you got kids in school and parents are standing around talking and did you see this, did you see that people have several people have told, a couple have told me and several have told my wife that they looked at it and they just were blown away by it. So I think I haven't read it yet. I don't know. It's like reading my friend's diary.
It's a little weird. It's a little weird for you to read it, I'm sure too, because your name's probably I mean, if my friend wrote a book, Steve's written he has his memoir that he wants put out, and I'm like, well, I know my name's in it, so I ain't reading it.
Just a little bit. We did live together, so yeah, you're there.
Well, the way it works in Hollywood is, and maybe it works in I'm sure it works in politics and maybe in business stuff too, but as soon as a book comes out, you race right to the index and you look up your name, and then you go to the 4 pages where your name's mentioned, and then you're like, this book is terrible. It's an outrage. It's like, how do you know? You just read the 2 paragraphs with your name in it.
That's right.
Let me ask you about The Boys of Abu Ghraib. This movie is made by a first-time director, writer, actor, and by his name is slipping me at the moment.
Luke Moran.
Thank you, Luke Moran.
Luke Moran.
Who's very good, and
by the way, not for nothing, was with me that day I came to do your show.
Was he?
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was in the green room with me that day.
No one tells me anything. I don't know nothing. Here's why I'm impressed. We're making a film right now where I wrote it and I'm producing it and I'm acting in it and directing it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is such a crazy process. This is his first film, and by the way, I don't have Edward Zwick as my EP, which
he didn't either.
Oh, really? So
he didn't either.
This is what I'm asking you about.
Ed Zwick, who's one of my heroes,
he's great,
one of the legends. I love Ed Zwick.
Great.
I think he came into it in the last stages of post-production.
So what happened?
I could be wrong with that, but to the best of my knowledge, that's true.
Do you know how this film got made? I'm curious about this.
Yeah, I think he had like a lemonade stand. He and his mom. I mean, when I got there, his mom and dad were doing craft service. I mean, it was a down and dirty, low bud indie. And when you look at the final version of it, it just blows my mind.
Doesn't it look great?
Production value and how realistic he made it look.
Well, you guys filmed in a New Mexico penitentiary, correct?
Yeah.
And I mean, it looks it. I gotta tell you too. I don't know how low budget is. I know you probably don't. I will tell you this: it doesn't look low budget. If you watch this film, this looks as good as anything you'll see in theaters or on TV. Like, it looks great. The DP on it did a great job. It looks phenomenal. And this is it's such a crazy movie for me because politically, and you kind of play, I wouldn't say you play a bad guy. Would you consider what you play in this movie a bad guy?
Well, just to set the context for your audience, so
yes.
This is a story about a soldier who is sort of bored with his assignment, and he ends up volunteering to go over to Abu Ghraib and to work in the hard site, which is where those pictures were taken that everybody knows about with it Krasinski or whatever her name was, with the dog, and and they've got the prisoners naked and stacked on top of each other, and with the hoods over their faces, and just the horrible imagery that we remember from 2004 of that incident. So Luke Moran wrote and produced and directed this piece where he takes kind of an I don't want to say a non-committal role, but he takes an open-faced look at it, where you follow him, he goes in, he sees what's happening, he meets me. I'm the one who kind of it's a small part, but I introduce him to the hard site, which is like this inner chamber within the inner chamber. It's you're deep in to the prison when you're in the hard site, and supposedly the worst of the worst terrorists, worst criminals are in there. And I'm just kind of showing him the round. This is what we do here. This is what you do there. Don't talk to him. Don't do this. Take your name tag off so they don't send a mail bomb to your house and back in America and this. And I'm very coarse. My character is a very coarse guy. He's not a lot of he doesn't have a lot of sympathy for the prisoners. He doesn't seem like an out-and-out racist, but when push comes to shove, literally physically in there, he has no problem, hurling racial epithets, and he's just a guy who is a product of that environment, and then Luke goes from there. His character goes on to see even worse treatment, and to ultimately stick up for one of the soldiers who he's gotten to be friends with. Because you spend like hours, a whole shift, 8-hour shift, just sitting there with these guys, and what do? There's no traffic in and out of there. So anyhow, it was.
And he befriends one of the prisoners. I don't want to get too much in. I don't want to give it away, but he befriends one of the prisoners, and it kind of unravels from there. But I agree with you, Sean. He doesn't really I don't think he really takes a political stance. I would say that it comes from the point of view, obviously, of a character who's just in this environment. And that's why I'm saying about your character, I don't know if I'd necessarily call him a bad guy. I think you're right. The best way to put it is you're a product of the environment.
The one moment in the movie, and my character has it, but it's very, very subtle, and it goes by very fast, is he says to me, hey, are we supposed to be doing this? And I just give him this look.
Right. You give just an
What he knows is you don't want to have soldiers and families and military support groups looking at your first film and saying that you're unpatriotic, that you're anti-American, and how dare you're a liberal, lefty liberal. You don't want those things when you're making the movie. At the same time, you want to point out when there's stuff that's gone wrong, and this is why the moral complexity of that space. Really, a lot of the responsibility goes up the food chain. It goes up the food chain. These sort of techniques and some of the culture that's allowed to exist. I mean, everybody has to be responsible for their own behavior, their own actions at every level. But the one area that didn't really get full airing was the extent to which, officers down the chain and all the way up. I mean, I just watched a documentary called the Unknown Knowns, or there's something like that with. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Yep. Someone pointed out to me literally like a week ago.
It's with Donald Rumsfeld.
Right.
And he's interviewed in it, and it's striking, eerily similar documentary to the one with McNamara called Fog of War, where you see these secretaries of defense years after wars that they presided over, and the thinking is so convoluted and tortured when they're explaining things that it's really shocking, and so when he's asked about in this documentary about these interrogation techniques and what was allowed and what wasn't allowed, and what they were aware of and what they weren't aware of, and how they handled things, and what's clear, what do you have clearance to talk about, and you watch that documentary, and then you watch a movie like this, and you sort of go, I guess when it comes right down to it, most Americans are willing to just close our eyes, put our hands over our ears, and pray that the people in charge are going to take care of us.
Yeah.
And then every now and then, people overreact, and they start screaming and yelling, and they want to throw the whole baby out with the bathwater about everything that our government is capable of and all the great advancements we've made. And somewhere in the balance, where real responsibility has to be levied and real accountability has to come from, that sort of gets lost. So I think what Luke's was trying to go for was to show like a story that in the way that it might have happened with a guy who wanted to be a good soldier and had a conscience.
I want to say it's so funny you brought up The Unknown Known, which is an Errol Morris film. He's one of our best documentarian filmmakers alive ever, actually. He gets someone like Donald Rumsfeld to talk about things he probably would never talk about otherwise. And Errol Morris co-wrote a book that came out, I believe, 5-6 years ago, called The Ballad of Abu Ghraib. So that's kind of funny. Errol's very committed to this this story as well. And I just think The Boys of Abu Ghraib's it's a very fascinating movie to watch. It's a great first film for Luke Moran. I feel like it says to me Luke Moran's a real artist, too, because obviously, like we're doing our film, and it's about straight men and gay men and their relationships, and that can be a controversial topic. Just like The Boys of Abu Ghraib, that's a controversial topic. And when you decide with your first film that you're not going to give a shit about that, you're just going to go out and do it, I think that says what kind of artist you are. So I think that's fantastic.
Well, I wish you luck with your film, man. I think there needs to be
it.
more movies that wade into that environment. There's still, there's still a culture that exists of awkwardness and discomfort. I mean, forget about all the bullying and that sort of stuff that gets done. Even when you say, okay, we're not going to talk about gay marriage, we're not going to talk about gay bashing, we're not going to talk about that, but now how do just people relate to each other?
And that's what the movie's about. And we were just talking earlier before he came on about how it's not a political movie. It's not left-leaning, it's not right-leaning. What it is it's about, can straight men and gay men be close friends? What are the issues with it? And it's done as a comedy, but it's supposed to send the message that, like, what are we afraid of? We can all be friends. This is not a big deal.
It's human. It's human issues.
It's
human issues.
We box ourselves, we label ourselves, and we do these things to ourselves that kind of automatically separate us from other people. And that's something that we really need to work on as a society, in my belief.
I'm so reticent to do this joke because it's like it can be fun. But the point I'm going to make with the joke is that when you're doing it and you believe in what you're doing, it doesn't come off as offensive because you're in it. Certain people can say jokes, and if somebody else said it, you just go, wow. So the joke was, what do you call a black man on the moon?
What do you call black
an
man?
astronaut, you racist.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Right. So there's just certain words like Obamacare. There's just certain things that instantly fire people up. And if you're gay in certain quarters in this country, man, it just being gay, just saying either the word homosexual or something like that, it's like calling somebody a racist. It's the easiest thing to do, and it's the hardest thing to take back. Once you throw it out there, it's like it's like you've got paint all over you, and you can't do anything about it.
It's funny.
I think that Luke was so clever.
Yeah.
That his intelligence comes on so many different levels. First of all, he's a great looking guy. Talk about gay. That guy's good looking, but.
Now, Sean.
He's a good looking guy, and he's really smart. He's really clever, and he was really, really patient. He was really patient. I mean, just in finishing the film, it just came out now. It was almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And he never seemed like a guy who was desperate. He never seemed like a guy who was hungry or that he was kind of out of rope. He was just at each moment he was playing. He was not playing the cards, but he was riding the rhythms to be able to get the resources he need and to make the associations to get Ed Zwick involved and, for example, and like that. So, and on the set he was very calm and focused and relaxed and patient. I mean, it's surprising to see that somebody who's got the kind of ambition that he clearly does knows how to just chill the heck out.
What kind of director was he? Was he really involved with you to prep for this role, or did he just kind of let you do your thing? What kind of direction did he even give you?
Well, just agreeing to do the movie, you talk about controversial. I jumped right in. I mean, the one thought I had was. And it was the second time I had it, actually. The first time was on Law and Order, where I played this Christian minister who's being. Yeah. Did you ever see that? No, you
I did. No, I did see it. I loved Law and Order. It's my favorite show.
I know, but there's 4,000 of them. The odds that you saw the one that I was in is not high.
I've seen every single Law and Order. You were on Law and Order. I think it was like the last season it was on, or the second to last season.
Second to last, yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played this Christian minister who's accused of murder because he got one of his students or parishioners or whatever to go and kill somebody. And when he's on the stand, he goes thundering about the Muslim infidels, and we have to raise up an army of Christian warriors. And it's a great scene. I love doing it. But right before you do it, you sort of think, am I gonna offend a lot of people when I do this? Is it worth? Is art, is drama worth risking? Offending people who might not understand it, the cultural context, who might just flat out hate what you said. And in both cases, that one and this one, The Boys of Abu Ghraib, I just thought, if you're an actor, you have to be willing to take that risk. You have to be willing to go there and do it. And part of it is because part of what's interesting about it is that you don't know what the outcome is. The results of the actual incident. I mean, certain soldiers had to do jail time. Others were given a slap on the wrist. Some people got off scot-free. And then, the whole military took a hit. The whole country took a hit, really, based on those images that came out. And so it's not – we haven't really – our country is pretty slow at processing things like slavery and treatment of the Native Americans and, something like that where we're torturing people in a heinous way. It takes us a long time as a country to figure out where to put that in our conscience. And so this doing this movie, when it was said to me, it was very clear that it was doing that. It was wrestling with how to make sense of it all. And so I just started. He did not give me any specific guidance about what he wanted me to do to be prepared, but I took it seriously, and I read several books, and I studied footage that I could get a hold of, and there's a lot available, surprising amount available. I went through the nightmares that you have if you really study that stuff and you think carefully about what happened to people, the rendition that went on, and whether you're for or against or anything, just as a human being, trying to figure out what other human beings do to each other sometimes is catastrophic. And then when we got there wasn't that much time. It was a low budget movie. So when we got there, he was just hoping that everybody who showed up knew what they were supposed to do and would do it. But he was very, so in that sense, they hired the right people.
That's how you direct
there was a feeling among everyone on the crew, the Muslims, the Christians, the Jewish people, everybody on the film felt like we were doing something that was meaningful. If you finish a day of work and you go, I think I did something valuable today with my work. There's not much more that you can ask for out of your life, really. And we felt like we did that every night that I was there. We certainly felt that way. And he, when it came to setting up the camera, he was more than willing to hear, maybe you should look over here, maybe it should do that, or maybe the other thing. But then oftentimes he didn't need to make suggestions because it was very clear that he knew what he wanted, which is all you could ask for in a director. Is if when they show up and you show up, they know what they want ultimately. Because if because somebody has to, for Pete's sake,
right?
And he did, and he kept his focus as an actor. It was pretty great. It was a pretty great experience watching him. I have as much respect for Luke in his setting as I do for other filmmakers in other gigantic settings.
Let me ask you, and then I'll let you go, a final question for you, because it's a Vox Populi. So let's plug Vox Populi by asking you a political question. My experience from living in L.A. and now being in Chicago filming this movie, so I'm not in L.A., and I get the separation of the two cities really well right now. Do you feel like, especially in the film business, that people in L.A. kind of live in a political bubble? They really don't know how things are like in the Midwest and the Mid-South and in the Southeast and those territories, that they have an idea, but they don't really?
Well, I know the phenomenon you're describing. First of all, I ran the Chicago Marathon last year in October.
That's great.
So hey, Chicago, what's up?
Yeah, I tried to do that. They didn't let me in.
The Bank of America, Chicago.
I didn't get in. I didn't get in the lottery. So, kudos to you.
Is it really? Is it a lottery? Is it that full?
It's a
Guys
lotto,
like Sean surpass a lotto.
It's a lottery right now, unless you want to raise money. So maybe you raised money, or maybe it's because it's you. But they told me not this time. I didn't make the lottery. So.
How much ahead of time did you check?
I gave it the January is as soon as you can do it. I entered the lottery as soon as I could. So
it is a lottery because my
It's-
friend just found out
yeah.
he's in for this October.
Yeah, for this.
And like he didn't, like
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean you just found out? You sign up and you go. And I realized that it's not like that.
No, it's not. And because I've been running and trying to get to marathon distance, and
Do they look at pictures? Do you think they profile?
They might, and here's why. Like I just ran I ran the 8K.
Funniest thing I ever heard.
Well, I ran the.
No, it's an audition thing. You go, you show up, you got to sign in.
Right.
You go, so a person says, so how long you been running?
I think lottery is a nice way of them saying select.
Yeah, casting.
Yeah,
Casting.
it probably is because I'm short and stout. I don't think they want to see me gas my way
No,
across.
probably not. So, Sean, but do you really feel like there is this bubble in L.A. when it comes to politics?
I
and
think
other
sometimes there can be. I think sometimes there can be a sense that, Hollywood. I definitely think that the idea that Hollywood is all liberal is off base. I know a lot of people who are conservatives, and they always feel beat up on like, hey, I exist in Hollywood, and everybody says it's and my opinions aren't counted for because I'm not a liberal. But so I think that there is the kind of Prius. I have a Prius, so there's a Prius culture kind of a thing. But what I think more than that obvious kind of insulated vibe, I think everywhere, all over the country, people lock into certain ways in which news are pervade. The Fox News and MSNBC and even the CNN and all the just the way media kind of organizes itself and the cycles, the story cycles that they come in. I find that people have the same. It's groupthink all over. I don't think LA gets to hold the candle by itself anymore of being the kind of insulated place. I think everybody's a little bit out of touch with in a lot of ways with everywhere else. It really takes getting out of airports, and you have to go places and interact with people. I do it when I do these conventions, where the comic book conventions, and I'll sit there and I'll meet say 400 people, over a day and a half, and much of them is similar. Much of the interactions are similar, compliments and that kind of stuff. But then you do kind of get a sense of people's, of the variety of thinking that's out there. And when it gets right down to it, we all have so much more in common, so much more that we need to have in common than not. That I think shows like yours and shows like mine that give people an opportunity to talk about who they are and where they're from. I mean, it always gets good. Yesterday I did. This will be a good plug for my show. If they go to raiseyourvox.com or voxpopuliradio.com, they'll see a little thing that I recorded with the iPad at the Federal Building at Wilshire and Veteran.
Yes.
And basically, I just
learned
wanted
a lot
to kind of
about
make.
you. I learned a lot about you
Say
from
again?
that video. Well, that video, you kind of give your whole past. I kind of learned a lot about you from that video that I didn't all know.
Yeah, my wife's like, you didn't have to say all that, but it means something, doesn't it? I'm standing in front of a federal building, there are a bunch of flags waving around. It's tax day. I have a radio show, and I'm right across from the Veterans Hospital and the Veterans Memorial, the Veterans Cemetery. And it would be very easy to show up at a place that has some emotion to it, some ideas connected to it, and have it be superficial, have it be, basically a backdrop for you to make your case. And I just thought it was important to say, like, no, this is where I played Little League, right around the corner, and that's where I grew up, right down the street. And so the fact that I'm standing here on this grass right now in front of this federal building where people right now are inside working, I feel like, and they're taking money from me, they're collecting money from me today, and from most Americans today, they're collecting. I have every right to stand here and espouse my opinion and say that I want to create a place where we can come together and talk and ask questions and answer them and stuff. So I'm glad you took a look at that, and I hope others do as well.
No, it's a great video, and I love the review. The poster of all the reviews from people that listen to your show on the page, and he has all these quotes from people that listen to the show and follow the show, and it just goes to show you how dedicated people are to the show. And I think the best quote is, unlike me, who likes the sound of my own voice, Sean didn't do his show just to be heard. He wanted to hear the people, and I think that's a great quote. I'll never get that quote. So
No, you won't.
God
No,
bless.
but you know what you did for this whole interview? You listened really well, so that's pretty good
I
thing.
love
I did all the
listening to
talking.
you, and thanks for teaching me Twitter still, Sean. I appreciate it, and you're a good.
I love you. Good for you. I hope your show goes for a million years, and good luck with your movie. Hey, why didn't you
too,
cast
brother.
me in that movie? I'm sure I could have played a gay guy.
Because
Come
it's
on.
a little lower budget than even the boys of Abu Ghraib. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Sean, you would have been the first one up if it wasn't as low budget
Hey
as
man,
it
I
is.
was over there in what's it called, the park right there, Lincoln. I was over in
Yeah.
Lincoln Park with a GoPro camera and a bunch of Second City kids, and we were acting out we were doing a satire of the what does the Fox say video.
Yeah.
Just October. So I'm just saying, I'm not below. Nothing's beneath me, pal.
All right. Well, that's true. You got that Goonies money. You got that Goonies money you're sitting on.
Well, hey, Matt,
and those Hobbit movies, those Lord of the Rings.
we got some time to think about it.
Yeah. That's true. Sean, I'd love to do something with you in the future. That'd be great. You're a great
All right, I'm
guy,
waiting for
man.
my offer. I'm going to be sitting here waiting by my laptop for that
right,
offer to come
you
through.
stay
Got
by-
19 cents and a
I got 19 cents. So we can make that work if that's what we're talking.
We promise you'll eat well.
Yeah, that's true. You do eat well on our set.
Yeah.
And, I mean, listen.
Oh, I eat well everywhere. That's
yeah,
a shame.
I believe that too, but that's why you run. That's why you run.
That's exactly it.
All
That's
right. Well,
That's
thank
right.
you, Sean, so much. You're the best.
All right,
brother.
this year I'm going to run the. I'll break some news on this show for people who care about my running thing. But I'm going to do the Marine Corps Marathon at the end of October. So since you didn't get into,
Very cool.
they may have closed that too. But
Yeah, I was
But anyhow, that's in Virginia. It's going to be amazing.
Man, they let you do every marathon.
Yeah,
You do all these marathons.
Sean's a celebrity marathon guy.
Maybe I'll
All
be
I
there.
do is sneak into the front of the pack, and I look behind me like, boy, they're slow.
Yes. Well, when I grow up, I want to do that too someday.
Oh, you want to be like Sean when you
Yeah,
grow up?
yeah,
See,
when I
there
gr-
you go.
When I grow up,
We're both short and stout.
Yes.
We're both short and stout. There's something to be said for us.
I'm only 28. When I grow up, maybe I can be you.
There you go.
It's all right.
28. That's when I ran my first marathon.
Ah,
28.
see, it's meant to be.
There you go.
All right.
Thank
Bing,
you
just
so
like
much,
that.
brother. Abu Ghraib.
You guys rock.
The boys Abu Ghraib. You can catch it on video on demand now, and you can buy it on DVD. Mom's Night Out. You could see in theaters next month. I believe that's May 1st that it comes out.
May
And
9th. Yeah, May 9th.
May 9th?
That's a good one. Families are going to love that one.
Yeah, and Trace Atkins is in it, and Patricia Heaton, so big movie. VoxPopuliradio.com is where you go. That's May 1st for Sean's next show. And go there anyways now to catch up and also check out everything on the website. It's a great website. Thank you so
Godspeed.
much.
Thank you so
Sean.
much. That was awesome.
All right, talk to you later, brother.
Bye, guys.
Bye.